Hi, welcome to another edition of Ad Age Remotely. I'm your host, Garrett Sloan, technology reporter, and we are streaming today to LinkedIn, Twitter, Twitch, and Facebook. So send us your comments, questions, just say hi from wherever you're watching. And I'm going to bring in our guest today, a very special guest, CEO of VaynerMedia, Gary Vaynerchuk. So you need no introduction. I'll just bring you right on.
I'm very humbled. It's good to see you. How are you?
Doing well today, and very excited to ask you because we'll just get into it. You were working, we just spoke briefly before this, you're working on your big drop this week. And anyone familiar with NFTs knows a drop is a big event where you're going to launch something, but you haven't said what it is, but we're here to get hints and teases out of you, I suppose. So 5/5, you're dropping something. What are you able to say about it?
What I'm able to say about it is much like Web 1.0 and much like Web 2.0, the only way I know how to learn new things is to get into them. So I launched my own .com in 1996, even though I didn't know much, right, about the internet or things of that nature. And then in 2006, February, I started Wine Library TV because I wanted to learn how to use YouTube and Twitter to promote it. And that's what I'm doing here. I'm launching my own NFT project. I can tell you that it's not like a lot of other people that have audiences. It's not pictures of me. It's not something silly. It's not just art. What's incredible about the NFT technology is that they're smart contracts and you can add things underneath it. And so the digital asset is a representation of the contract, not just a collectible and a piece of art, which is where I think most people have gotten a little bit caught up with it. And so that's what I'm going to take advantage of. And, you know, I've always been a big fan of intellectual property, and I'm doing it in a way that might help me, you know, really help, especially in the context of this interview, help our clients with their brands and intellectual properties or personalities. So using it as a learning curve and getting deep into blockchain and Ethereum and all that jazz.
Yeah, I want to ask you more about the crypto markets in a little bit, but with your own just sort of dabbling into why NFTs are exciting and what's capturing the imagination of people with it and why it's become such a, I don't know, I guess, hot field.
I think it's similar to Internet 95, right, brother? It's like, you know, like, I think it's exactly the same, to be frank with you. I think it's, the macro technology is forever. I actually think it's that big. I really do. On the flip side, the short-term greed and cash grab has people in a frenzy, right? Like when you saw those stocks in 1995, 7, 98 on the internet, you know, you're too young for this shit, but, you know, people were going crazy.
I was seeing it.
You know, people were going nuts.
I remember pets.com.
Exactly. So, man, you look good then, because I'd be pegged way younger. So you remember that, but the internet was going to be the internet. And that's what's happening here. In a year, there'll be articles saying NFTs were a fad because 99% are doing things that are, you know, very like short-term basis. And a lot of things will go to zero. But the overall macro will be huge. And during that internet bust of April 2000, Amazon and eBay were sitting there for dollars on the share, and I think you'll see similar things here. There'll be 5 to 15 to 500 great projects that will have long-term value as a collectible, as an asset. But the much bigger aspect of it will be the smart contract, books, music, ticketed events, physical goods. They'll all be NFT'd because there's going to be no reason not to. Every brand will be incentivized to create an NFT for their product because there's a utility to it. And then there's a derivative collectability. And then when we get into 9 years from now, when everybody's got a public wallet and you can see tokens, it's actually going to be a promotion vehicle for brand. So those kind of things.
Where am I going to go? Am I going to be able to auction or go bid on your NFT? Where would that be?
That's going to be on a .com that I'm going to drop in 2 days. And you connect your MetaMask or any other, you know, non-custodial wallet, you know, anything that is compatible with Wallet Connect, or MetaMask is a real popular one that I personally use, and away we go. And
you, like you said, like I've said, you've been dropping these hints on Twitter. I have to at least ask you about one of them. There was a video of a shower head. So yes. trying to, I don't even know. I'm not Sherlock Holmes. I couldn't guess.
I'm adding another piece to that, so I don't want to put it away. I love you back, Larry Basics. I'm I'll be honest with you. I'm genuinely enjoying this. I'm not trying to be, ridiculous or do anything wrong. Like, life should be fun, right? And I'm enjoying that. And the good news is when the project drops, it'll be incredibly obvious. It's not like people are blind bidding or any of that kind of stuff. You'll land, the whole project will be explained. People will digest the videos and the FAQs and all that. And some of the fun stuff we've done this week will become more obvious.
And you said it was you're calling it a culmination of your life's work. So I'm just imagining there must be a piece of you in it, or some sort of exclusive being connection with you. If you do get it, you're not just buying something that's going to be in your digital wallet, but maybe some more wider experience. Am I guessing in the ballpark?
You're going down the right path. I wouldn't say experience, but I'm definitely, it was very important to me not to be at the mercy of just the collectible ecosystem, right? The great, it would be asinine for me to spend my whole life and then ruin my reputation on the idea of, putting out this thing that people lost money on. I would lose all my trust. I've been playing the marathon long game this whole time. So the thought of like going for a short-term transaction just never been my way. And so I spent a lot of time, 4 or 5 months, ideating on what could I do to add on to the tokens. And what's been fun about that is my brain's always thinking in Gary V land, but it's also thinking in CEO VaynerX land. What does this mean for my clients? What does this mean for intellectual property? What does this mean for networks or consumer packaged goods or banks? So I came up with something I think is replicatable for many of the other activities that I do for a living.
And VaynerMedia, we just saw launched another branch in Latin America, in Mexico City, and you're expanding there. Why was that the right time for this? And that's also just part of growing the business. What was that today's announcement about?
Sometimes you come across an executive. Gabrielle Fenton is one of the strongest introduction executives I've ever met in the industry. She's a force of nature. I'm sure that market is lighting up right now, put us on the map immediately because of her sheer incredible career. We want to be everywhere. We're a young company. We're only 12 years old. So to be in London, New York, LA, to be in, Asia, starting our presence in Australia now, which is part of our, APAC strategy, and now to open up LATAM. It's a big deal. We're very excited. The timing, it just felt right. We feel ready. We have a lot of clients who are interested in us expanding with them globally, more and more every day. And, I'm very proud of what we've accomplished here. And I think we have a lot more when it comes to the ad age, community. I think I understand that I'm a loud and high energy kind of character, but we've been very meticulous and, have grown from me and AJ in a conference room at Buddy Media to over 1,000 people globally. And I'm really proud of where we are at the VaynerMedia and at the VaynerX level, which is the holding company that holds some of the other companies.
And before I do talk about some of your most loud and brash moments on Twitter, which I would love to ask you some of your thinking on just what it's like to use social media and how your strategy there. But back on the crypto and NFT sort of front, like you had said, there's a chance, like any market that's hot in the beginning, there's some of it's going to go down and not be worth what it was. Some of it's going to go forward and build the next internet. I was wondering if you saw what Bill Maher said this week about crypto, because that really lit up Twitter. So maybe you were seeing how he said crypto is an environmental disaster and it's a Ponzi scheme. I was wondering what you think of, I think a lot of probably fans that overlap with yours and others are looking at statements like that and wondering, what you would think.
I basically think that convincing people is a silly activity. I, like many other people, enjoy the idea of putting our hypotheses into the ether, right? We like to do that in the world. Humans communicate. I don't think he'll be historically correct. I think this clip will play out wrong for him, but I could be wrong. And I come into these things with that humility, but I try to be very cautious. I may say things loudly, but I don't say a whole lot of things. And I have a lot of receipts in video form of being way more right than wrong. And it's not because I'm a genius or I'm so great or anything about that. It's that I'm patient, I listen, I do a lot of strategy and homework, and usually I wait for things to happen. I mean, I think the reality is, to his point, Bitcoin and many other things will need to have utility and usage besides just a currency. If you want to eat a meal right now and you're starving in New York City, it's a lot better to have cash than Bitcoin, right? But it's also very early. I mean, I think people like Bill, wrote and said enormous amounts of things about the internet being a fad in 1999 and 2000, social media being a fad. I was in interviews like this that said, because I was hot on Twitter, Gary, this person said Twitter won't be around in a year. And I'm like, they could be right. I'm not interested in convincing anybody, to be frank. I'm interested in sharing my thoughts. And if it brings value to people, that's a huge win. I like to navigate my journey and see where the chips fall. I'll be wrong, I'll be right. But I tend not to get loud unless I have real conviction. And I think that, for Bill and others, when you're not spending years looking at stuff, it's hard to have a hot take. It takes a lot of time to be thoughtful about what consumer behavior is going to look like. And when you're forward looking, like a thing like public wallets and why NFTs will matter the way that Fortnite skins or blue checks on Instagram or followers on social media matter, that becomes something that most people don't put in the work or don't have the talent to see.
And I'm going to take a break to give some shout outs to the people who do watch us and are probably tuning in, especially for you. So I'm told there's a few names out there. Alan from Texas, Dietrich from Florida, Christy from Texas, Vipin from India, Zizi from Georgia, Temitope from Nigeria, Anna
Georgia
from
the country. Georgia the country, which I like.
Yeah, that sounds like it's likely from Georgia the country. And some names have flashed on the screen. Manmade.official loves you, Gary. Looking for 5-5. Michael Klinger. Let's go.
Humbled.
Yeah.
Thank you, Natalie.
And I'm Garrett Sloan, the host of Remotely Today, technology reporter, here with CEO of VaynerMedia, Gary Vaynerchuk. So still glad to have you for a little bit longer. And I'm going to, we'll dive into audio. I was going to, Clubhouse, Twitter Spaces. What's, is this something you're doing a lot of? Do you prefer it to video now, or where do you think this is headed?
I think mediums are time and place, right? Sometimes you're in the mood to not be on camera. Garrett, we're lucky enough to do that at times, but I'm sure there's times where, just doing it audio so you can be laying down. I mean, we could be doing this interview on the couch if it's audio, and so I think
next one, we'll do it that way.
Yeah, fair enough. I think audio is a great medium. Video is a great medium. Written word's a great medium. And I think these things have been set for a long, long time. They've all been jamming along for the last 80 years with the television invention. And so, to me, I think that it's a huge, obvious thing to me, and I was talking about it for years, that audio had to rise because we've become incredibly productive, and we need to do things passively as we're navigating every day. And so I just thought that people would love audio, and we saw the explosion of podcasts, and Clubhouse makes a lot of sense to me. It's like hanging out. I think technology that replicates real life, 10 people talking at a 20-person little session, campfire. We've seen that since the campfire and probably before that. And so, I'm very big on audio, including, Alexa skills and Google Home. I think, AI voice still has an incredible decade ahead of it. And, I'm looking forward to those innovations.
Yeah, well, I did see you mention that it could use an application on those assistants in the home, where I've heard other people sort of think similarly, like it would be easy to just tune into something through your Alexa or Siri or something, and all of a sudden you're in a Clubhouse. So why haven't we seen it yet, though? It's too early?
Yeah, I guess ultimately it's too early. You kind of need that pioneer sometimes to make that app, Like I remember when Twitter came out and Jack and they made that app where all of a sudden Facebook for me was the most revolutionary thing I've seen in social. And then boom, here's this crazy thing called Twitter, TWTR, by the way, back then. And I was like, oh my God, this is so fast. This is so cool. And so, I think you need somebody to come along and create an incredible app on one of those platforms that completely changes the imagination for everybody.
And you think that it's not necessarily a place for Clubhouse to take all here. It could obviously just be a feature for LinkedIn or Twitter.
Yeah, I very early on kind of sniffed that out and was like telling my friends, I'm like, look, I think Clubhouse could win and be like Snapchat, but let there be no confusion. Like Snapchat, the stories function, and in this instance, the Clubhouse, the chat function, will become an absolute feature for the biggest social platforms in the world.
And now I wanted to also ask you about this, just how brands can do the audio space, because I think they just jump into things. And
yeah, brands love a good jump in.
And the NFT also. It's like what
brands love a good jump in just to get the Ad Age headline, which makes sense, right?
We'll give it to them.
And it's valuable. Like I don't say that in a silly way. I say that it matters. Being an innovative brand may lead to, talent wanting to join you. Many, retailers seeing that and wanting to connect. I think it's very valuable. So I understand the first move. To me, it's be that brand that moves first and play that game, comma, then if you're not that DNA, be thoughtful and do it right. And I think that, I think that there's a lot of things brands can do. Let's say you're a beer. Let's just make that up. You can have your brewmaster. She or he can sit there and kind of create an incredible conversation around how they go about it, answer questions. And all of a sudden there's more affinity towards that brand. There's a million ways to do it if you're a brand. I think the industry as a whole with new technology is incredibly not creative. This is an industry that is incredibly anchored in the idea of making a 30-second video around creative subjectivity and pushing it down a television ad and then letting everything flow from there. And I think that is asinine would be the word I would use in a 2021 world.
Asinine is a good word today. What about I'm going to ask the audience too if they want to give us any questions, because I know your followers out there often have questions. So if they do send them to us, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter. We are on Twitch too. I see you have your Twitch hoodie on today, which looks pretty cool. How do you get one of those?
I don't know. I was in my office the other day and it was cold and I looked around. My office is a mess and it was there. So I'm sure, our media team probably does some good stuff with Twitch and they probably give them some swag, or, I'm very, excuse me, I'm about to sneeze.
Go ahead.
Excuse me. I'm a pretty big advocate and feel like it's an incredible platform. So maybe who knows, they sent it over, but I'm very grateful because it's super soft and purple.
I had the comment. It looked cool, so I wanted to know if we can all do one. Maybe.
I'll send you mine if you want to give me your address, Garrett.
Thank you. I'm going to take you up on that, and then put it on the NFT markets.
Yes, mint it.
And speaking of Twitch and all the social media platforms, you're adept at. You're on Twitter. Is that your favorite one? That's where I follow you the most. But what are you most excited? Or Discord? I see you talking a lot about.
I'm very hot on Discord. I love Twitter and I've used Twitter basically every single day since May of 2007. I'm very fond of Instagram. LinkedIn is great. I like the thing with LinkedIn that I like a lot is the level of business and optimistic and professional conversation. I think none of us are confused that social discourse, anxiety, a lot of human elements have really sprung up in the Facebook and Twitter world. And so I really like LinkedIn because the nature of the platform has created the context of a little bit more civil interaction. And there's plenty hefty debates and I get fried on historic, marketing points of view on there, but there's a level of professionalism that I appreciate because I think it's incredibly exciting to actually not see the world the same way, debate with respect. I may think it's asinine to do network television commercials. Somebody else may think that's the single best way of marketing, and it doesn't have to be a negative thing. It could be a tremendous reality of the world where people really are capable of seeing things differently and may have different KPIs or ways they judge success, and so that's kind of a little recap on that.
That's a serious marketing conversation. That's not typically, Twitter's not for a serious type of conversation. You're on there, you sort of let your thoughts flow.
It can be. I think we're being, I think you probably agree with me, right? There's some incredible stuff on Twitter.
Oh, yeah.
I think what is a little bit of a difficult thing is people, and I see this a lot in marketing because I'm not unaware that I see things differently than a lot of other leaders. I'm just surprised, and I'd love to get your thought, Garrett. I know I'm almost like flipping the switch here, but having fun,
Yeah.
I always think of this stuff as like, it doesn't have to be so personal. I'm fascinated in watching people talk about business and kind of get into this place where just because, like, for example, when I meet other agency owners or MDs or things of that nature, we're absolutely competing. Like, everyone understands that. But for me, I'm surprised how many people want to go personal.
On Twitter or anywhere online. I was actually asked you about what the civil level of discourse is on anywhere.
Yeah, I think on Twitter, but I would also say Twitter is just a mirror of real life. At Cannes or at an Ad Age conference, like, like people walking by and making snickering comments to different people. I've seen it, and like, somebody will walk by, I'm talking to them about something completely different. They're like, jerk. And I'm like, I'm curious about this. I'm like,
again, you're loud, brash. It could be that it's.
No, I'm sorry, not me. I'm sorry. I'm talking to, let's say you,
good.
Another agency owner walks by and not you, but like the person will say that guy's a jerk. And sometimes I'll ask why, and they don't have a reason. What they say about that competitor is they don't even know that competitor. They're on the other team, right? They're BBDO and I'm 72 and Sunny. And I've always been fascinated by that. I love competing. I love trying to win and build a big company, but I don't think it needs to be that personal just because that person represents the other company. And I'm fascinated by that.
I wonder if it's more in even tech out in Silicon Valley in California, if there's more of that between some of those companies. I don't know the answer to that. Every company, everywhere there's competition, but I wonder how personal it gets there in terms of, you see even Apple and Facebook.
Yeah, I mean, I understand. Listen, I love competition.
Yeah, sure. Friendly competition is a way to.
Yeah, I genuinely love. And when on the field, I love being, throw an elbow, this and that. I think that we need way more conversation around the ability to. I'm surprised that, when somebody says TV commercials are the best and social can't do anything in business, the way that goes through my brain is not like, let's fight, And I feel like when I say it on that panel that like TV commercials are ridiculous in 2021, it like springs this emotional reaction. I've always tried
Those are fighting words. Those are
definitely fighting words at ad age life, right? Like in the ad world, right? And I'm always curious about why it has to be that emotionally personal. I think business needs a reshaping of a conversation of how executives interact with each other. I was on this offsite with a big bank brand, and the 3 agency owners, just so lovely, and the teams are following that lead, and it's amazing to watch the synergies in the sandbox. And I think agencies in general need to find that gear, because I think it helps brands so much more. Instead of managing agency relationships, they can be focusing on the business.
Quickly, bank offsite. You don't have to name the brand, but what type of event is that they would bring?
It was just everybody getting together and like kicking off what the strategy was for the year, and like it was just great. I was just like very proud of that leader. I was incredibly excited by the tone and demeanor of the, leaders of the other agencies. And I see it, and I've seen it in kind of the actions amongst the employees underneath, and it makes me happy. And I think it needs to be something that happens more in our industry.
And now I'm going to also, before I let you go, because you're going to have to run back to working on the NFT drop, I know. So a couple from the audience, because they get to ask their question. And someone asked what the NFT space looks like in 5 years with respect to collectability and digital authentication.
Well, authentication is already set. The on-ledger chain, that's like the best part of the, it is always authenticated, and nobody can kind of alter it because it's a decentralized blockchain. So that's huge. As far as the collectability aspect, people collect matchboxes and keychains and stickers and magnets and sports cards and art and cars and watches and pebbles and marbles, and people collect. And so you'll see people collect on there in perpetuity.
And we mentioned Discord and Twitch, and someone else here mentions Fortnite. So these platforms, huge popularity with the gaming community, but I still think brands are just dipping their toes in reaching this community. What are your thoughts on the gaming?
Yeah, I agree. I do think there are brands that snack brands. I think the brands that focus on 13 to 18-year-old, 15 to 25-year-old males have jumped in. I don't think people realize how much gaming interest there is in the young female sector. I think there's huge opportunities, and I think a brand is more likely to sign a big basketball or hockey or baseball deal than a big, esports or gamer deal. And I think outside of Ninja and a couple other people, there's still there haven't been people that have crossed completely over, and I think there's huge opportunity.
And now, speaking of Twitter and getting into being just bold and brash, and you sort of doing your thing, you have said you're the best at Hungry Hungry Hippos. I was wondering how you justify that.
When you win 57 games in a row of Hungry Hungry Hippos, you just got to tweet it out and see if anybody feels that they can compete. I don't know what your Hippos game looks like.
I want to know.
Well, children, very young individuals.
Oh, you're beating kids.
And Jerome Thompson, the Hungry Hungry Hippo champion, when I stunned him, I felt like maybe I am great.
You beat the champ at Hungry Hungry Hippos.
I completely made up that last part. There's no Jerome Thompson. I just haven't fun with you.
I was like, oh man, I'm gonna Google that.
Look, I think, back to the opening way and this final point, I think one thing I'm tapping into a little bit more and really paying attention to is this concept of fun. I've been doing a lot of studying on the Roaring 20s and the early 70s as reaction periods to things similar to what we've gone through with COVID. And, as a parting shot, I think everybody leaning into and thinking about fun a little bit more is probably a very good idea. A, it's just good for the heart and the soul, and B, I feel like we all need a little bit of it.
I'll have to agree with you on that. And on that note, I'll let you go. I don't get to ask you about the Jets, even though you did wear the hat. So good luck this year.
We'll do that next time. Thank you, Garrett. And continued success. You're doing great work.
Thank you. We'll talk again. And thanks to everyone who is tuning in. And thank you to Alfred Mascaroni, Max Sternlicht, Anna Sakula, our producers here at Ad Age Remotely. And we'll see you on the next one.